Hey guys, welcome back. It's Meg. Today we're going to be running a 25 Tyrannical DOS with my monk. This is going to be the last of our Mistweaver commentaries for Season 2. This was the last thing that we had sub 25, so I just wanted to get this out, call it good before we get into Season 3. You can find my stat weights in the top left, my legendary in the top right, and my talent choices and trinkets in the bottom right. We're going to go ahead and shroud past this first pack. We will come back to this later, but we just want to get Lust on cooldown by doing a little bit more difficult of a pull. Went ahead and set Lust here. We are not going to be using the urn until we do the Enraged Spirit that comes up the stairs, the big red guys. That's what we're going to be using our urn on, so this, because it is not Fortified Week, should be just fine with Lust only. We also have the Incinerator behind us to the right, so you want to make sure that you're holding a couple of cooldowns for that. This is why we're only going to be sending Fallen Order here. Just a note, it is also Bursting Week, so Revival is going to be mostly reserved for those big stacks of Bursting when we go into Hakkar's Hallway and Ardenweld more specifically. I do use it here just to clear that last stack of Bursting because we rolled, plus the 2 set of fire debuffs that had already gone out when we pulled him. Gonna go ahead and send Crane first into this guy, and then Fallen Order will be up again when we need it towards the end. You can see as the Incinerator dies, there's a teacup that goes flying right there towards that mask. That was one of the Fallen Order monks. They tend to do that, so just be aware, especially if they're in close proximity and you're trying not to pull something, like we were trying to not pull it. The monks decided that it was ready to go. I did have some hots pre-spread here, and I went ahead and popped Fort Brew because our mage had called out that he was interrupted from his urn cast, just because it's volcanic. He got knocked up in the air. So I went ahead and used Fort and a health pot here. I also committed Cocoon to, I believe, our Windwalker, and then we're just going to heal through the rest of this normally. This time our urn was on time because we did not get an unfortunate volcano spawn, so we're just going to go ahead and hold all of our cooldowns until the next rage. I'll end up popping Fallen. I won't get full value out of it just because it'll die before my cooldown is over, but it is better to use it there and be stable during bursting than it is to not use it at all and struggle through it. We went ahead and did the skip here, but I think that he got caught during his invis, so we're just going to go ahead and mass res him. It doesn't quite reach from here, so I have to run back and cast it again. I should have walked closer just initially. I didn't realize he was so far, but it's not a huge time sink or anything, so it's fine. Sorry about that notification. This one was done during stream, so I had all of those things enabled still. He went ahead and blocked that one. I popped Fallen Order. I really didn't need to, but, you know, it's a very, very short cooldown, so it really doesn't matter quite as much. Right here we end up losing our tank just because he got stuck in a global during his bubble. He tried to bubble, and because it is on the GCD, he couldn't get it off in time. So we do end up wiping here because this is a pretty rough pack, but it's okay. It's fortified, we can just come back and do it again and not lose a whole lot of time. I went ahead and just sent Fallen Order here for safety. It'll probably be up by the time that we need it on the slimes, just because there's a good amount of targets to hit here, and we also get that CDR from Essence Font. This is a good pack to put Fallen Order on, just because there's a lot of damage going out here that isn't super predictable, or it could be really unfortunate if more than one person gets targeted at a time. Especially during bursting, it could get pretty spicy for one individual pretty quickly. For this boss, the biggest things to look for are the people soaking the beams, the damage that they're taking. Make sure you're watching their stacks, because it does kind of creep up on you. It always ticks faster than you expect. If you're in comms with them, you can call for them to use defensives and things like that. If they need to step out, they can also call that out and someone else can soak. This is a communication boss, especially when it comes to your DPS and what they have. It is time for everyone's favorite turn. That is a healer job. Generally, the squirrels are going to be on you as a Mistweaver. It is much easier for melee to do it, and as a healer, it is something that you can spend the time to cast. If you don't have enough haste, it can be a little bit difficult, but during Lust, anyone should be able to get them. When I'm on my Shaman, I typically ask the melee to do it, but because I'm super mobile and because I'm in melee anyway, it's not as big of a deal for Mistweaver to do it, so try and be on top of those for this boss. Just be aware, in this situation that just happened, if you end up getting one late, you have a very high chance of actually killing the person that gets the Shadow Fury, because these squirrels will blow up, they will hit them, and then they will get their ticks of Shadow Fury, and everyone else gets their ticks of the chicken storm thing. So on that one, it's very important to get that bomb early so it can go off, you can heal it up, and then when the Shadow Fury goes off, you're a little bit safer. Someone in chat had asked a question about my settings, so I just had them up there while we were running to Ardenweld. When it comes to handling really high stacks of bursting with Mistweaver, something that you can do to kind of keep yourself a little bit safer, just so you can make sure that you get revival off, is using diffuse at about half the stacks that you're going to expect. So when we go into this pull, what you could do is you could kill like 7 things, and to avoid having to heal yourself and maybe lose other people, you could just diffuse off those stacks, wait for a couple more ticks for the little bit of a tankier DPS to take a couple more ticks of their bursting, kill a couple more things, and then you can revival it off. This is just to make sure that you don't end up dying to the bursting before other people, and then they get fucked over because you don't have revival because you're on the floor. It's not as big of a deal in dungeons like this, but you will see it a lot when I do my Plague Falls. If you go and watch any Plague Fall that I've done on Monk, when it's a bursting week, that first pull of slimes, if we do all of them together, I usually end up diffusing off about 6 stacks, just so I can make sure that I can live the ticks of the gushing ooze before I end up actually revivaling it off of everyone else. And then that usually happens around like 12 stacks or something. Went ahead and popped Crane during this just because we have some ads with us. I also like that I can just kind of move out of the root because you are immune to roots when you have Crane running, so that's the reasoning behind that. It's not required, there's not that much healing to do, but it is just kind of nice to not have to worry about getting stuck in the swirly. Right here, we're going to start dealing with our bursting stacks. I don't really have anything except for diffuse and cocoon, so this is mainly on the DPS to make sure that they are not blowing up everything at once for like a stupid amount of stacks. That being said, we do have Cold Snap and Alter. We've got Karma. Both monks have diffuse. The tank should be fine with himself. He's also got Bubble. We've got Sack. And then we also have Cloak. So if anyone gets in trouble at any time, when I have no cooldowns and they know I have no cooldowns and we're going into big stacks like this, it's no longer my issue. As far as I'm concerned, if they end up dying to bursting, if we get that many stacks, they should know that they need to use their defensives. We do have Revival back for this. We also have Crane. He went ahead and bubbled there just to kind of get stabilized. This is a relatively big pull, plus the birds with their little beak slice that they do. Monk has a little bit of a threat, so he's going to get the enveloping from that stack of Chi-Chi, and we're just going to go ahead and keep spinning, making sure that we're keeping hots on people in case they get hit by swirlies, in case they get threat, and then prepping for the bursting sacks. I went ahead and popped a raid pot here actually, just because we're not going to be invising anytime. I'm not going to need it during the boss, and I just wanted to cut down on the drink time between now and getting ready to pull dealer. Friendly reminder to always drop your Transcendence up top before jumping down. That is, I think, the mistake that I see most often when monks are doing dealer, is that they don't allow themselves that safety net of, especially comps that are a little bit more melee heavy, they don't give them that safety net of, oh shit, a trap got eaten early, what do we do? Who has to die? Who has to use an immunity? Instead, you can just run up there, transcend, and then jump back down after replacing your Transcendence. Going up here, the lightning jumps at a pretty unfortunate time to our rogue. I went ahead and just used IQD on him when we were in the air. That's a big reason of why I run that trinket, is because things like that, if we ended up losing someone on this super early, that would be really detrimental to our boss damage. Also considering we don't want to end up wasting a V-Res in case we actually need it for something more important later. I went ahead and popped Crane here just for mana's sake. But there wasn't enough damage going out that Crane wouldn't do a majority overhealing. That being said, I don't want to just heal this normally or just wait on Fallen Order when I could be using my other cooldowns to help conserve a lot of my mana. The biggest part of this fight is that people go way too early because they get scared and they send double cooldowns, or they overcommit cooldowns initially and then don't have anything later, or they try to hold their cooldowns for too long and then don't have any mana later. This whole fight is mainly just about keeping the prio targets alive, that is the lightning targets and the bomb targets, and just making sure that you're not overcommitting your mana pool. A lot of times on this fight, I'll actually end up using my Thunder Focus Tea on Vivify just because it's mana free. It actually does help a lot more on your overall mana consumption, especially when it's a good amount of single target healing like this fight. End up losing the monk here just to some unfortunate stuff with the lightning timer. He didn't have diffuse or any other defensive, so he's pretty dry. I also didn't have cocoon for him, so that's just kind of unfortunate on that timer, but that was at the very end of the fight, so we didn't actually lose anything. This is the very first pack that we shotted past in the beginning. We didn't need to send Lust on it because it is a Tyran week, and it is also not something to end up sending Lust on, just because there is no Lieutenant that you could bring into it, or a Mask, and there's just a lot more value on the other two packs. So we're just going to go ahead and do this, get our cooldowns back, and continue on to our final wing. Go ahead and just send Fallen here. You're not really going to need it until, honestly, Hakkar. But you'll just be able to send it on cooldown, get a little bit of damage out of it, spend a little bit more time doing DPS instead of healing. I went ahead and sent Crane here just because we did a little bit of a double pull. Didn't really want to send Fallen because I worry about them pulling the trash when I don't want them to pull it, and because we skipped that first little room, I really didn't want them running over there and grabbing it. Went ahead and sent Fallen here just because it'll be up by the time that we need it on Hakkar when the damage starts to ramp. This is the last pack that you can use Touch and IQD on before you want to make sure that you hold it for the totems. Mistweaver has the lowest damage of all the healers, especially single target, so you want to make sure that you're holding on to your execute, because if you fuck up one of those totems, you're going to be in for a rough ride on Mueh'zala, and it's going to take way longer than it needs to. We already committed, because it is a 25, to do two rounds of intermission, so it will be me, the tank, and the mage on one totem, and then the other two DPS on the other one, and we're going to do that twice, just so no one has to send cooldowns on them. And sometimes, you know, mages with Veins, if they don't get the right amount of crits or whatever it is, how Veins works, then they can't kill their own totem by themselves. So we're just going to make sure that we don't have that problem. We are good enough on time to make sure that we don't have to risk it for the biscuit. And we're just going to go ahead and make sure that we're not using IQD and Touch. Blood Barrier is coming up here in 3 seconds, so we're going to go ahead and send Fallen just to kind of touch people up and give some maintenance on the Corrupted Blood as well as the Suns. Biggest things for this boss, similar to Dealer, is just managing your cooldowns, not overcommitting in the beginning, and making sure that you are using your cooldowns in the correct places, that being the blood barriers. Crane is dropping off, and we have another blood barrier coming up in a couple of seconds, so we're going to go ahead and send Fallen again just to chop people from the blood novas, handling the corrupted bloods, and getting ready for that burst damage from our good friend the blood barrier. We ended up having more time than we thought, so we went ahead and pulled Auras just while we waited for a little bit of mana regen and some cooldowns to come back from the DPS part. There's really not a lot of healing on this fight, so you can kind of send Fallen wherever you want. The biggest things for Mistweaver here are, again, just making sure you hold on to your IQD and making sure that you are communicating with your group and kind of seeing how you are on cooldowns in terms of totems. Again, IQD and Todd are probably going to go towards your first and second phase, respectively. IQD is going to be usable before Todd, just because you, at full health with, like, I've got 53.8k HP, the totem has about 80k when it's sub 20%, which is when the IQD execute range triggers. So I went ahead and used that one there just because it was a little bit sooner, and then we will have Todd for the next one. Went ahead and sent Todd there, just gonna go ahead and grab the totem, and that is pretty much the end of our run. On Tyran weeks, you got to do a little bit of DPS towards the end. I think I bought Crane just kind of for the memes because it does melee, but it does minimal damage. Alright, and that brings us to the end of our final Mistweaver commentary for Season 2. We got like 0.4 points of IO, so that's pretty big for Mistweaver at this point. I will see you guys in the next video, and then when the Season 3 starts, we're going to continue these commentaries again. I don't know what the plan is for them yet, if I'm going to do every single Tyran and Fort Key like I did for this one. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to wait and see. But I hope that this was helpful. I will see you guys in the next video. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitch, Twitter, or Discord, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.